Hi, Cancer Sun and Rising. Welcome to your January 2026 Astro Update. It's Raina here. And so I'm going to talk about January, but I'm going to be posting this in the first week of December. So I want to kind of review a few things because there's a lot of Sagittarius energy. And I feel like a lot of you might be listening at a time when it's still happening. And I just want to, talk about that for a second. So, as I record this, we have the Sun in Sag and we have Mars in Sagittarius. And I'm recording this on the 5th. And so, this for you is the 6th house. And the 6th house is a house of work, what you do for work, the workplace, your coworkers, your work status, I suppose, your daily routine. So what you're doing, how you order your time, it can be your health as well. And so when there's a lot of energy focused on this area, like for instance with Mars, you could even be like working overtime. Like you're working very hard. It's kind of like this real sense of urgency to get as many hours in as possible, or you have a specific project that you're trying to get accomplished. Maybe you're going to go on vacation at some point in December into January, and you just want to get everything done in time. And so it's very practical. This is Virgo's domain in astrology, the health aspect. So even like with Mars can be physicality. So you might be exercising more for your health or something like, working out, that type of thing. And also with Mars, there can be this conflict. So it could be like you're having some kind of conflict with your workplace or with your coworkers or something along those lines, something that you disagree with. Maybe it's a policy that has recently been implemented. Maybe some person you're not getting along with another coworker or what have you. When the planets go into Capricorn, it is your opposite sign, so it's the opposite house. Well, that's a simplistic way of saying it because it depends on your individual chart. And if you're listening as a sun in Cancer, your rising sign is a whole new ball of wax. So you have to really, and that is used for predictive astrology most of the time, as far as I can tell, that other astrologers are doing so as well. And so, so that's a whole new thing to explore. But this is just easier to talk about the general influences. And that 7th house is the house of partnership, committed partnership, as in marriage, or the equivalent. You might not be legally married, but you're domestic partners. So it's basically the same thing without the legality. The interesting thing, the 7th house is also legal matter. So, anything that is a legal matter. And so relationship issues can come to the forefront when you have these Capricorn placements. So I just want to, set the table here. On the 1st of the month, Mercury goes into Capricorn. And Mercury can be, good negotiations. 7th house can be some kind of mediation. This is the house that Libra rules in astrology, and it can deal with mediators, people who are coming in between two fighting parties, sparring parties, trying to find common ground and create some kind of agreement. So whether it's in the workplace where you're dealing with this, or whether it is because Venus is in this house and it might be over money for some reason. There might be some need to negotiate something. Um, so it could even be like a divorce, I suppose. But on the third of the month, we have but it can't be like documents, like if you're about to get married and you have to, sign the wedding certificate, you have to, or go and get it. Mercury can be those legal documents, or call the caterer, call the wedding reception hall, communicating about those matters. On the third of the month, there is a full moon at 13 degrees of Cancer. So in your sign, you're ruled by the moon. So I'm sure full moons are very important times for you energetically as well. But this full moon in Cancer means that, there's an opposition with the sun. So the sun is at that certain 13-degree mark in Capricorn. And in that seventh house of a committed partnership, this could be a thing of seeing how you behave in relationships. And it could be like you have come to a final, for some people, it could be like something has come to a head and you realize that it's on you. Because sometimes when other people might be behaving badly, you might not be the one who's behaving badly in terms of whatever's going on in the marriage. The other person might be. But if you are always talking about, oh my God, they did this, now they did that, and you're just acting like an innocent bystander and not somebody that is deeply involved in that relationship, it's not only about abdicating responsibility, but also it's like, okay, but the ball is in your court. You can, you're not helpless here. So you may realize that there's something you have to do, that you have to, or maybe it's something you have to stop doing that is creating conflict in a relationship. Actually, now that I think about it, last year in December, we had Mars going retrograde in Leo. And I can't remember if it might have been January before it went back into your sign. So you did have, and it, it kept going because of the retrogrades. It hung around a long time. And then even when it went direct, it wasn't until like May that it cleared out of, that it went back to the 6-degree mark of Leo, where it began. So when it fully came out of the shadow period. So you did have some kind of Mars action in your sign last year that may have created a lot of, well, I wouldn't say aggressive tendencies, but tendencies how it pertains to your maybe assertive, maybe you felt more confident, but also in some cases took it too far. And now you realize you have to kind of chill out. But that might have been a time when you felt confident enough to leave a relationship, because that is difficult. I know somebody personally in a long-term marriage who was a Cancer who ended, a long-term marriage, even had grandkids and ended their marriage. And I always think that must have taken a lot of courage for that person to do that, because Cancers tend to hold tightly to things, even if they're not ideal. But you are a cardinal sign, so when you've had enough, you probably can surprise yourself and other people with your ability to move on and just kind of take the bull by the horns. Something could be ending, though, for your life, too, because this is happening in your first house. On the 17th, Venus goes into Aquarius. So now we're talking about the 8th house, and that Venus can be money. 8th house can be other people's money. So there could be something here, if there is some kind of a legal matter where you are receiving money because of some kind of legal decision that is, has taken place. And Venus in the 8th for people who are coupled that are having a good time. For Cancer people who have good relationships, this could take it deeper. This is much more intimate, if you will. Venus rules the 7th house, and that's Libra's domain with the wedding and all of the outer trappings. But the 8th house is kind of down deep inside. So if Venus is here, it's not going to settle for shallow displays of affection. On the 18th, we have a new moon at 28 degrees of Capricorn. So some new chapter in a relationship matter, in a legal matter. In the 7th house can also be any kind of one-on-one relationship. So if you have clients, that could fall into this category. Maybe you have found a way to enlist new clients or something along those lines. But anything that has to do with even like personal, what do they call it, public relations. So this would be a way to kind of get your name out there. And this might be a good time to do that. The next day on the 19th, the sun goes into Aquarius. And then subsequently on the 20th, Mercury goes there, and the 23rd, Mars goes there. So if there's any kind of inheritance issue, 8th house can be other people's money, like inheritance is a big one because the 8th house can be the house of death. With Mars in the 8th house, sometimes there might be some kind of conflict that is concerning you and other people or another person and money. So whether it's a soon-to-be ex, dividing you and them, dividing up your, I don't know if you call it estate or whatever, and possessions, things like that. Or if it is family members that are trying to get their piece of the pie, and maybe there's some kind of fight with a will. That could be what's happening. If you're trying to get pregnant, this could be one of the houses where that is a possibility. And certainly Cancer is the sign of the mother. So, but you'll have fun trying, right? That's for sure. This can be a time when you feel strong urge to do a complete makeover, but not like, that might, the first house, if Pluto is in the first house, oh, and by the way, Pluto is in this domain for you. So it is already, and that's the house that it rules in Scorpio. So all of the things that are Plutonian, and one of the big themes of the 8th house is transformation. But when you're transforming yourself, it's like, also we could call it personal alchemy. There is the before and the after. And when there is the before, it can be kind of messy. It can be the person at their lowest point. When you have Mars here, the desire to transform yourself from the inside out very deeply can be quite strong. And because of that Mars retrograde that I was speaking about happening in late 2024 and through almost half of 2025 in just a couple of signs, Mars has not been in Aquarius when it normally is there. So you haven't had in that 8th house. Now that you do, you may be feeling this really strong desire to purge things in your life. On the 26th, Neptune goes back into Aries. Aries is a cardinal sign like Cancer, so it does hit one of those angular houses. In this case, we're talking about the 10th house of career. When Neptune is in the 10th house of career, this can be a time when a person feels a little bit, I wouldn't say this is going to be true for the whole transit, but maybe in the beginning especially, lost. And there could be some kind of an event that causes this to happen. Maybe the person has a career that suddenly becomes obsolete. And I've been reading about this. The tech field, because of AI, for instance. And those are jobs that probably paid very well. But if a person has built their whole sense of self around a quote unquote good job or good career, they may find themselves really kind of struggling to define themselves. And Neptune is very undefinable. But the interesting thing is that, Neptune rules Pisces and the 12th house. 12th house is about the spiritual dimensions, about the impractical side of life, but not saying impractical in a negative way. So even if you're somebody who's still in the workforce and you have no intention of leaving it, you may find yourself gravitating to a profession that is much more what I would call, oh gosh, I was thinking of the word, now I can't remember it. It's a word for charitable, altruistic, rather than just like, okay, what's going to make the most money, and more of a selfish thing where you're like a materialistic thing. It's going to be more like, and it could be like in the healing arts. It could even be, if it's not like totally about altruism, it could be artistic or spiritual. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you are not going to be able to earn a decent living as well. It just simply means that it's a whole other way of looking at career. Now, Saturn is going to also go back into Aries. When Saturn gets back there, I think you're going to breathe a sigh of relief because it's more your speed. Saturn is about laying down foundations, and you might find that you feel more secure when Saturn is in the 10th house, because Saturn does give definition, and it gives discipline, and it gives that sense of practicality or, viability. Neptune can be very diluted at times, very idealistic. We definitely need that, but we don't need impracticality if we really want to make our dreams come true, because it's incompatible with that. If you're not grounded, and Neptune is very grounding. If you're not grounded and you're just kind of pie in the sky, then you have to accept that it's probably not going to be very easy to realize whatever those dreams are. Saturn can, say, but how are you going to get there? And then kind of like give you the discipline to do it, I guess you would say as well. But right now we're just dealing with Neptune. And so you may, it may be helpful to really this. They talk about this in Law of Attraction as a way to kind of get the ball rolling, where you do fantasize. Your daydreaming is not just wasting time. It actually serves a purpose because you can, by daydreaming, you can kind of get into aligned with what is your dream, career and how you see yourself and kind of rehearsing that. And that's what Neptune is really good for. Okay, that's what I have for you, Cancer. I hope that this resonated. And if you would like a private reading, I have package deals, I have individual readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.